All right, let's see. Oh, I hope.
Cool, we're live.
All right, ready?
So Arlo, have you made that cheesecake yet?
Did it work?
No? Oh
No.
gosh,
Oh,
well, you better
sorry.
treat Stuart
Ah,
when you do
I
that.
had to go
I'm thinking it would be good for a birthday.
Oh, perfect, yeah. My son likes it for
Lovely.
any occasion, but for her birthday it would be good.
Oh,
Yes,
well.
it's my girlfriend's
I,
birthday.
fortunately, it's,
Oh,
for some
yeah, it's
reason,
pretty
it
special.
isn't jingle and
You
everything.
just sort of very
It's
small
easier for me
pieces
to
and cut it
thread
a little bit.
and see
Okay, that
the
sounds
needle
good.
and stuff. So I do find that little spit back there. There it is, lickety splickety. No, it wasn't lickety splickety. I pulled it back out. Don't you hate that?
Yes.
Ah. Like, oh, that was in. What?
I got 3 quilts back from the Rotary school. So,
Ooh, that's
yes,
fun.
I do
Well,
find it.
Karen.
One's a king size Studio 180 that took me a year.
All right.
And,
Do you guys have a spot where you
I found
give a needle disposal center?
Not really. I'll keep it
Dirty
safe.
needle. That needs number one.
Shorts
Whatever.
too.
Sorry, that's
So
probably
I'll
not
take
it.
Appropriate.
Very
But
nice.
I've got a set just in case.
Sometimes when you're in mental health, it's for another life, you kind of get
and stitch.
a little different than through both.
It's one of the requotes is
Here we go. Okay, let me just do the usual stuff that we normally do. You know,
Well,
the
this Tony was, I gave it to a quote to remove it from
ready to rock and roll.
and she put it back in sometime. And didn't know it sometime.
And I'm not sure, I'm just gonna say these funny little tips that took me a lifetime to learn.
So did you just put it in the
But,
vacuum?
when you have your presser foot down, it engages the tension of your machine, so you can't pull the thread out easily. So if you only have a little piece of thread and you're threading your needle and you're tugging, lift your presser foot up and then pull and then put it in. Now, I know that was something I probably should have known a long time ago, but
I don't think I even thought about the presser foot when I was threading my needles.
when your presser foot's down, it's a lot easier to see the needle eye. So when you put it down, see, you're young, so you don't have to worry about those things. As you get older, you're like, I can't see that, I can't see that. So you start to figure out some other issues. Welcome. Today is curvaceous quilting. And, oh, sorry. And there is a handout that, did y'all get one? Here you go.
And those online, there's a link in the chat, so you can check that out
There's a
yourself.
link in the chat when you're online to access this information. And first out of the gate here, many thanks to Pinterest. That's, I have these particular pictures in my folders or whatever they call them. And if you follow, I'm not that you don't need to follow me if you don't want to, but if you go to Suzanne Sterrett, I just use my nickname. And then under my boards, there's quilted projects, and then I have it divided up into a whole bunch of things. Well, at first there were like 4 folders, and then over time it's like, oh, I have a lot of those. Maybe I should just make a folder for it. So some of them are in with others, and then they got their own folder, and so it's not the most organized. I have to say, old-fashioned files, you have a drawer, you open it, you go, oh, that shouldn't be there, and you put it in the right one, and it's done. And online, you have to find it, click it, figure out, do I move it, or do I share it, or am I, what am I doing here? I can do old tech a lot faster than new tech. But anyway, it's fun. I just love searching and quilting and sewing and having fabric in front of my eyeballs and in my fingers all the time. So what we're going to look at today is curves and how do we get curves in quilt designs. And there are a number of ways to do that. First of all, why would we even want curves? It just, like triangles or a lot of other aspects of quilt design, it gives motion, it gives rhythm, it gives that dynamic look. So a curve, especially a true circular curve, takes your eye and keeps it going, and then wherever the curve ends, you just keep following it off. So it's that physics of, you know, swinging an item around on a string. It just keeps following until you let go and follow that where it goes. So it takes your eye to a new place. However, the other thing that curves do is give stability. And so if you use the very same block, but you have it be a closed curve, so it comes completely around and ends to itself like a circle, then it says it's right here, and it's the bullseye effect. So it gives your eye this zoom in, stay there, look at it. So we have dynamic and we have stability with curves. I think, to me, when I think curves, one of the first things that comes to mind is Drunkard's Path. And Drunkard's Path has some interesting history, as I have shared with y'all before. I really love the historical aspect of quilting, and I did have that book somewhere. Where did I put it? Oh, okay, I don't have that book. I think I had a pile of stuff that I left at home. That's really a bummer, but, oh, here it is. Okay. Treasures in the Trunk is one of my favorite historical reference books for quilting. It's mostly about quilts that were made on the Oregon Trail, in the westward migration. And one of the things in this book it talks about with Drunkard's Path, or any path, Oregon Trail, any block names that have trail or path to it, that it may have started with that migration effort, and they made it on that trail, and then that's where it got the name. Drunkard's Path certainly has a swingy motion, and it does take you sort of this way and that way, and you're not a straight line by any means. But I'm not sure if someone might have been living a life that reflected that name also or not. But at any rate, it's really, if you see it and it was in a time, if you see an old quilt referenced and the making of that quilt was somewhere in the time period of a migration movement, it might very well have to do with that. And so, I think it was page 80 something. I'll just find classic Drunkard's Path here. Here we go. So classic Drunkard's Path is this design, but the design is made from a block that has a background concave arc and then a quarter circle that fits into it. So let me show you too. Confident Stitch has a lovely gradation of templates out here, and they actually even have one or two more. And so you have a very large one here. You have, and then all the way down to super teeny ones, which these would be like really fun, but also I'd have to build up my courage, I think, about that. And those are fun. I'd like to encourage you to look up a woman in her blog. Her name is Pat Forrest, and I didn't put any of her pictures in this, but she is in, I'm sorry, I can't remember if it's New Zealand or Australia. I think New Zealand though. And she's amazing. She has created these like nesting, that block, but it's not the true Drunkard's Path arrangement, and these nesting pieces that go in different directions and create all kinds of new forms. but Pat Forrest with one R, I think it is. And she's a quilter. And she's had national acclaim. She's also quite a mathematician, I think. If not just intuitively, she must also have a knowledge bank in that, because her quilts have been featured in mathematical periodicals. Yeah, it's really fun. Anyway, she's a very interesting woman, and I think if we get enough U.S. interest, maybe we can get her here to show us how she does these little nesting deals. I haven't jumped in to figure out how she does it. So, historical reference to Drunkard's Path, the actual block. A template is, these are thick plastic templates, so you can see it's a thick, I don't know, 1/8 inch maybe, 1/4 inch maybe, something in between. Thickness, and I would strongly recommend getting those, using those. However, paper's fine, cardboard's fine. Our grandmothers have made this design long before plastic, so it's not necessary. But we are in the habit of using rotary cutters, and rotary cutters are kind of hard on paper and cardboard, and your accuracy diminishes every time you run just a little too close. So, so using the templates is very nice. You'll notice I brought a template that I have used. And you'll notice in the templates, if you're fairly new to quilting and not sewn curves, you might find yourself going, this can't fit, because when you put this, well, it does look like it should, but look how excessive it is. It goes up, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it comes up this high when you, and it doesn't actually fit in the curve. And so you might think, well, that's not right. But the thing is that this has the seam allowance all fit into it. So when you line it up on the seam allowance overlapping, it's perfect. So that's the difference. It is how this, when we use squares and triangles, they do kind of line up, and you think, oh yeah, that's the right one, but curves do not. This is from a pattern called 7-inch Crazy Curves Templates, and it's really fun to mix and match these too. So this is a more modern arrangement of 1/4 circles and 3/4 circles that intersect. And the Missoula Peace Quilters made a quilt one year for Jim Caron, who, if you're not from Missoula, he was one of the main folks in the children's theater development, and he really created a space for all people and had a very strong commitment to peace and diversity and things like that. And he was nominated and chosen for the annual Peacemaker of the Year award. And so as a peace quilter, P-E-A-C-E, we made a quilt for him with this design. I'm telling you, it knocked my socks off. I loved it. It was super bright colors and bold designs, and it was just lovely. And we embellished it with beads. It was really a fun one. But you can see that I then bought the 3.5-inch small piece, and when you buy the templates, they usually have a paper that peels back so you can actually read the template and see it. But when you peel that back, if you're not used to using and buying templates, you have to get it started, and then I don't have good fingernails. When you grab hold of it, it just peels right off with no sticky goo on the back or anything to wreck your fabric. So it's a nice, and then you throw it away. It's not really reusable. But so that's another. You can purchase these in a variety of locations and types of packaging, where you're getting a pattern with multiple sizes, or you're buying individual ones, or whatever. And then the cutting of it, if you look at cutting this over here for now, you have 2 fabrics you're going to use, and this is a fabric I purchased here at Confidence Stitch a long time ago. It's a Kindred Sketches by Kathy Doughty for Figo fabric company, and this is the palette I want to be wrapped in when they send me on to the great beyond. It's like all the colors, I just go, breathe it in, suck it in. It's just so vibrant and lovely. And it kind of takes like the water side, cool side, and the warm side, fall side. It's so fabulous. So what I did is I bought quite a bit of yardage of this, and then what I was thinking about doing is making kind of this mix and match sort of thing, but always having this in it, and then I have about 6, well actually I have a stack of about 20 different fabrics that go with it, but I brought the basics today. So when you cut the template, it's going to be some fabric loss. So get ready if you're really frugal about cutting your fabric and not having excess that you do the Eleanor Burns toss over your shoulder. If you don't know Eleanor Burns, look her up. She's just hysterically funny as a quilter, and she has a lot of videos.
What's her name?
Eleanor Burns. She developed the quilt in a day in the 80s, 90s, something like that. She's just funnier than all get out. So when you cut, if this is going to blend with this, and if you have big ifs here, if you are going to, you can see where I already cut, this is what happens. You have these funny little chunks that are left. And then you get to decide, okay, is that enough to do something with, or nah, not gonna do it. So because I already have a wonky edge, I am not going to do what you can do if you're fresh start. So if you're fresh start, you can stack the 2 colors that are gonna go together, and you can cut a background and a quarter circle piece. And so you can cut them at the same time if you want to, and you have a new sharp blade. Do not do that if you don't have a good sharp blade in and you don't have any extras to grab from your storage to get ready to go. But you can stack a lot of fabric and use a good sharp blade and cut it all at once if you have a mind to try that. However, for best accuracy, just cut in the individual fabric. Now, if you truly are going to cut 1 little quarter of a Drunkard's Path block, then you're going to actually separate your fabric and decide, is this the background outside of it, or is it the quarter square? And then you're going to set it down right side up so that you always know you're getting the fabric you think you're getting, and cut that out. If you're making a bunch of them, which I did here, I'll show you that block in a sec. Then you should press first. Always do as I say, not as I do. I'm a sloppy quilter. And then take your piece. For this, I'll just demonstrate the little one. And this happens to be the quarter size of my 7-inch, or half size rather. And so it's going to fit. If I do 2 together, it'll fit up against one of the larger. So I'm going to set this down. Now, Confident Stitch has provided me with this lovely small Rotary, but do you recognize this, ladies, who did the block of the month? This little dinky bugger is so lovely to use on curves and tiny templates. And this is, you know, razor blade in the round. It wants to go straight. That's what it likes to do. And so if you are going in a curve, especially a concave curve, you're wearing your blade down really fast because that flat edge is hitting up against a curve edge. And if you're using plastic templates, a hard curved edge, and it's going to wear on your blade really fast and you'll be replacing blades. So these little teeny weeny blades are so sweet to use, and they're so cute. I'm going to do this one here because I think it'll use fabric. I'm kind of stingy with fabric use. I've gotten better at going, no, I'm not going to use that little 1 inch tiny sliver. I'm throwing it out. Although I have a box of 1 inch strips after we did our block of the month. So, okay, so I'm going to set this up. I do want to use this little border thing that's printed on the fabric. So I'm making sure that I'm coming off of that at least 1/4 inch so that I can use that some other time. And I can decide, okay, if I come right here, then I'm getting the most out of that space, but then I'll have a piece here. But that might be better for use because I don't know what I'm going to do with the border right now. So I'm just going to go right up against, oops, if I'm lined up, which I'm not. Never mind, I'm not. What I just did is I realized I'm not perfectly aligned with the other side, so I don't want to make it in a way that is not accurate. So my finger goes on the fabric and butts up to the edge of the curve here. I cut, whoops, got to pull that back. I cut along here to the end. And this also gives you a really nice cut on the fabric that's left behind. You know how you run to the end of your ruler and then you go to cut the other way and you look and you've got these 2 little slices into your fabric, and so that's a waste if you wanted to cut a nice long cut through that. This smaller circle leaves less overhang when you finish the template. So then I have not moved the template. I've got my thumb on the fabric holding a corner. I've got my pinky on the fabric holding the curve, so that it stays put because it's kind of little. And then if you have a rotating mat, that's lovely to use right now. You're going to make sure that you haven't bumped it, which I did. And you're going to come around and you're going to make sure your fingers are out of the way, or you're wearing those lovely little gloves, which I don't. And you have these. So now you have the convex side. I just have to think. And then if I were at home, I'd be cutting probably 6, that's 2 right there. So I'd be cutting 8 times. I'd be cutting 16 or so. And so I just lay that out. You can usually get the most by using the same template and butting it up then to a cut that kind of matches it in a way, and you can kind of see how you can get the most, and then maybe you try another thing. It is hard. That's all there is to it. I usually start with this on a straight edge, and then that gives me this thing so I can follow that straight edge and have the loose stuff hanging in. Then I put these little pieces into those curves in the best way possible. But it's tricky. That's all there is to it. So now I'm going to come, and again I'm leaving that space. That's not, okay. Maybe come up here and get it. Yeah, up here's better.
Would you use that small blade on stacked fabrics?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. That's a great question. if nothing else, the thickness here is only what you can get through. So, I mean, I probably use it on 2 fabrics, 4 layers
Okay.
thick. Yeah, and I have. I had to think for sure, but yes, I have. Now here's this place where it wears your blades down because you're going inside. And what I do is I kind of angle my blade, if you can see that, so that the blade is coming in. I'm over exaggerating it like this, because then you're going to have less of that friction along the curve of the template. If I have it straight up, then it's going to be hitting against that template all the time. I hope that makes sense. Okay, go just a little bit beyond. I did that end, I did the curve, I did that end. Now I'm going to come here. And again, I try to have my pinky and my thumb braced against the edge of the template and the fabric, and it's touching the fabric, so I know I'm not shifting and moving, because you are moving a lot of different angles against this, and it leads to, I just felt it move actually right there. Okay, there we go. That was a hard one. I made that awfully skimpy. Okay, so now I have this, and you're going, well, why would you put those 2 together? Not gonna. Now, I take my other fabric, Eleanor Byrne style, toss it over there. That's what she just throws her scraps over her shoulder. My kids were watching when I was first quilting. I was watching her, and my kids were watching with me, and they were going, who cleans up her mess? I said, I'm guessing not her. Do you want that job in my sewing room, honey? No. How much would you pay me? All right. Now I have a thick selvage edge here, so that's why I slid that up a little bit. This would be, oh, thank you.
Oh, jeez.
That would be a bummer. Okay, so we'll move it over just a hair here and make sure. Well, that we don't need to move that much. Even. Okay, yes, thank you. Oh, Misty, I'm glad you're sitting there. Okay, we're coming here. And just a little word on cutting. I've been working at our adult learning center and teaching kind of beginning sewing. And it's reminded me of some of the things I forget. That when you're cutting, try to have your best height, your ergonomic height, so that your arm is a little lower than 90 degrees from your bicep, so that you can lean into it. And if it's way up here and you're trying to lean into it, you have to bring your shoulders up, and your shoulders are going to get really tired. If you're at too low a surface, you lean over too far, and your lower back is going to feel like, you know what, in no time. So, so you use your whole body when you're cutting. You don't stand back here and cut like this. You'll have to cut 3 times because you won't go all the way through. But, so my fingers are out of the way, they're on the fabric, they're pressing against the template, and I roll right to that outside edge, and then I come here. I've got it angled, and voila. So here's this now that's going to go with this, okay? Now this, I'm going to need the opposite. So look at, it's like almost the exact right thing, but it's not. It's fooling me. So when your templates are clear, they don't have that paper on them anymore. Thank you. I'm like, oh, where did it go? It was right here. Okay, so we'll go right there. And my thumb is on fabric and template. My pinky's on fabric and template. Off I go. Off I go. Come around so I'm good and square. Might move those out of the way so you know you're lining things up accurately. Yeah. And notice how my blade is tilted this way so the cutting edge, not as severe as I was demonstrating for the camera, but, and then that's ready to go with that, okay? So, there are a multitude of possibilities for, and this is where you go, maybe, if I was just going to cut one, I have a feeling this will be big enough. Yes, it will. So I'm just going to cut that straggler off, because I don't need that. Cut that straggler off, don't need that. And, but I don't, I'm going to leave an obvious goof on this so I don't think by accident it's the perfection one. I wish. Not perfection likely, but not with me. And so I actually love folding fabric. I just love it. There's like, oh, I feel it. I look at the full print. I love folding my fabric, tossing it. But it's so pretty in a lump, you know? It's just pretty. Okay, so when you can look at tips online for sewing curves and find everybody's opinion about convex on top of concave or concave on top of convex, or if I just said it the same way, I don't know. But whichever way. Most I have looked at recommend convex over concave. So the convex is on top. The next step though, but there are people who recommend the other way around. And I'm not saying that doesn't work. I am saying for me, maybe I've practiced it so long this way, I can't get my brain to shift and do the other. Maybe it is easier. Look them up, try them, figure out what works for you. If you've watched any of these on video, or those of you here today, you know I do not like pins. I never, well, I can't say never, but I rarely pin. By the way, you see my toothpicks in my, those are great little tools. They're wonderful for using as a stiletto sometimes, or for, here, I knew I had a couple pins. See, I don't have many pins. I don't like them. I have done more harm with pins than I've had benefit. So, I don't.
Use a spot of glue?
Yes, that's what I'm going to show you. But pins, if you like pins, one of the things the pins do is they get it done and they keep it there. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you, when you put that first pin or glue or any kind of secure down, you want this edge to closely line up there, and you want this little point to closely line up here. Then I go to, and I'm only going to tell you what works for me, but please look, please try to figure out for yourself. You don't want to go, oh, but I get more lined up if I go like this, because then that very first stitch, when you open it up, is going to go, wonk, and it's not going to lay nice and straight. So you're trimming, which of course you're going to probably do with curves. I don't, but, well, sometimes I do. Then you're going to lay this so that it's here. Oh, I forgot. The very first thing you do, though, is you fold this in half. Sorry for backtracking. And right there, just the teeny tiniest little snip, just a little triangle. Those of you who have sewing arts in your school history will remember this is a reverse dart. Notch, not dart, a reverse notch. So when you get sewing patterns for clothing, they have a little black diamond on the line, and you're supposed to actually cut that black diamond, but you can cut it up or in, out or into the pattern piece. And so for quilting, if you do that, now that is not going to be any deeper than 1/4 inch, so you have to do a pretty teeny one. That's actually kind of big for what I usually do. So what I usually do, I'll show you, is super teeny. It seems, let's see, put it on white. There we go. So right there, I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Put it this way. There's a little teeny tiny notch in that curve, right in the center. So I folded it where the curve folded in half, brought those edges together, pinched that together, and cut the teeny tiniest little sliver. That then is going to pin, if you're using pins, it's going to pin together here. So I don't have that done on this one, sorry. So I'm just going to kind of guess. And by golly. But then you go, say there's a little notch right there. I'm going to say that's pretty close. And then, yep, I even have one more pin. And here I go. And let's say that little notch is lining up. And then we're set to go here. Now, you will find some pictures that have like 6 pins between those two. So pinning can be really intensely packed, or you might put one more, or you might just call these 3 enough. So the thing to remember when you're handling this, though, is those curves are bias edges, and they are very flexible, which is the friend part of bias edges. They're also really vulnerable to getting outstretched or misshapen. So when you're handling them, it's like you're fluffing, like holding cotton balls in your hand and kind of tossing them and catching them, because if you hit too hard on those cotton balls, they're gone, they're flying out the way. So you just have a nice little pressure on your fabric all the time. You're not torquing and stretching and pulling. You might do that once you get to the sewing machine, and that's where the flexibility piece goes together. But so you can go to your sewing machine, which I'll demonstrate in a sec, but I just wanted to show you that's pinning. I'm not going to do pinning because I don't like pinning. I have a needle here, so sorry, but I could go with the right pointed end and place another pin here in the middle and line that up, or I could put 2 or 3 or 6 in there and have it really dense. The problem with pinning is always you're going to break needles if you don't take them out of the way. And I am careless, sloppy, and rushed in almost all that I do, let alone, I mean, I don't think it shows. I think I have figured out the efficient sloppy. That I think I make very pretty quilts. I don't want to encourage anyone to think that I don't. I take pride in that. But I've learned to just trust my instincts and develop that sensitivity to the fabric and to the give of it in these cuts. Take that time. Instead of looking at the final product and going, oh, I didn't do that well. As a mental health professional, do not call yourself names and berate yourself any more than you would someone else. And B, be encouraging and be a problem solver. Stop and think, okay, that didn't line up like I thought it would. How could I do it differently? So if you've never sewn curves, I would recommend that you start with large. They're, I think, easier to use. Not humongous, but like my large pieces here, I'll show you. This one, the 7-inch square. Start with something about 6 or 7 inch, and then perfect your technique. And when you do a 6 or 7 inch, turn it into a pot holder. You know, if it didn't turn out, cut it down and make a pot holder, or put a frame around it and make a little hot pad for your table or something like that. There are a lot of things you can do with your learning pieces, and who knows, maybe it'll be good enough to use. So pinning is one method. There are a number of glue products out here. There's a liquid one, and honestly, I'm not sure, but I just have never found the liquid ones to dry fast enough. As soon as you put the dot on and then you line up your fabric and you think you're going to stick, you go to the next one and it slides right off. It's like, well, that didn't work. So I'm not, for this particular task, now I think these work really good for a lot of other things like applique or stuff like that, where you're just spot gluing. But a fabric stick is a good one. This is just a Joann's product. It's fabric glue stick, just looks very much like the paper glue sticks that the kids use. And it is okay. However, Arlo, help me. Bowden. B's and D's, you know, I got them mixed up. Bowden is a product that makes an absolutely fabulous glue pen. And then now I've discovered Sewline, which is a product line I love. Sewline also has one, so you can get a Sewline one here. I've used Bowden, and when I look at this, it looks exactly like that, so I'm assuming that it's going to be just grand. Now this is amazing. So here, you just dab a little. You put that, and remember, we get it nice and straight for that first one. And then you just kind of mark a little. You dab. Again, we're not pulling and stretching. And then as you come around to your middle notch, you're going to set your middle notch down so it lines up right there. And then go back and kind of tap in. And I wish there was a way to communicate the pressure I'm using on this tap, but it's a very gentle, oh gosh, like you're slipping a tight sleeve opening over a baby's and newborn's hand. You don't want those little fingers to get caught and squished or bent wrong or something. So you just have this super gentle ease, and you'll see these little puckers, and that's okay. And then you come around, and we get that, and we get that. And if you have to pull and tug, here's a little tip. If you have to pull and tug, move your fingers in from the cut edge and pull from there. So you have your finger here and you kind of pull from here. Because if you're holding on to the edge and you pull, oh man, that's a long stretch. And if you've pulled too much, it's gonna be out of shape now. If you have a piece and you're like, okay, I just ruined this. I pulled it, it's out of shape. Spray it with water, take it to your iron and come straight down on it and kind of ease it and scooch it together again, and the heat will do a pretty good job of recharging it. So, okay, so here we are. And notice this is holding together, and I just tapped it down. This is absolutely amazing glue. So this is Sewline, and then Bowden is the other. Now I'm going to come all the way to the end because, like I said, I don't want that to be stuck like this. I want it to come here and line up along the cut edge so it's square to that. Then I'm going to go back and kind of tap where I've glued. Oh, I guess I didn't glue. It's not sticking to anything. Anyway. And we're just going to go like that. So it's in place and ready to sew. All right. So now we come to the sewing machine, and I have a quarter, I'm on my Janome, I have a 1/4 inch foot. Oh no, I have to do it this way. I remember how to do it, it's new to me. But I actually like, on curves, I like a more open view of everything. So I'm going to use this foot, but I know a 1/4 inch on this foot. Oh, I haven't done this little teeny one yet for a while. It's been a long time. Okay, all right. So we're right. I don't want to get a pleat.
Is there a feed on it? Is there a feed on that machine?
A feed?
No, the back. The independent feed that feeds from the back.
There, no,
Oh, okay.
no. Or if there is, I don't know how to use it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, this is new to me still. And so again, remember, if you pinch onto this edge, it's going to stretch and pull. If you hold your finger over here and kind of curl it up and pull it back toward you, you have less impact on changing the shape. And so this is a teeny one. I should have used the big one. Oh well, it's all right. Oh, I will. I'll show you the big one because, and I'm going to pull just a little, not pull, but just a slight tension pressure where this, my index finger is. I'm kind of pulling and pressing a little bit. And I'm going to come along here. Yep, I don't think I'm getting too big a seam. Coming along. And if you feel, remember, use your senses, feel those folds and pressures underneath the fabric that you can see, and you kind of smooth the underside out. Okay, that. Now, oh, I could have used my cutter, darn it, forgot. I was thinking I didn't do a very good 1/4 inch seam, but no, it's not bad.
You clip your edges.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. It depends how tight a circle. So this is just the Drunkard's path with the 1/4 circle piece in the inside. Some templates will have a tighter circle, and where you have a tighter circle, you might very well want to clip. And if you clip, if you're not familiar with that, you can, the best way to do it is to cut each layer independently, because then if there's any pull, you don't have a 2-layer snip getting right close to your seam stitches and then having it open up and pop out. So 1 layer at a time is clipped. So we clip, and you clip close to your stitching. That's going to be the most effective, but you don't want to go through that stitching, of course. And right here, I have kind of a little pucker, not a big one, but a teeny one. If I use my fingernail at the stitching and kind of try and smooth it in both directions, I can get rid of it. Because in between each spot that your needle goes in, you have space, and you can move that around a little bit. Now, voila, we have the curve. Okay, so that's how that goes. Now, let me demonstrate with, I'm doing the barbershop pole around my leg here. Okay, this is my favorite color with this. This is the Drunkard's Path block with the teal. And the way it's going to go together, I hope I can do it right, is here and here. No. Here, there we go. What if you have it in the same position, it just gets moved to the spot it belongs, but this is here. Okay, so that's all it is. And I didn't do it right. Nope, I'm wrong. It goes like this because it's a pinwheel is what I had intended. But if you look at that red and white image that's on your sheet, it gives you multiple Drunkard's Path. It should be right on the front page on the far right, the red and white image. It gives you all kinds of arrangements of these. So this is only one arrangement. And now I have the other 4 pieces. So I have 2 done. And they are going to go, no, I have to look and see here. Okay, so this one, I know. Yep. So this, what's done is all of the blocks were stacked the same way. Do a quarter turn, do a quarter turn, do a quarter turn. And then that's how this ends up here. So, is that right? Yeah, I think so. No, yep, it is. It's a mirror of that. So, okay. So that, and then now I have 2 more that'll go in here at the top. So again, sorry. Someday I'm going to get us a design wall for in here. We really need it. Okay, so again, I'm going to do this on top of a block because it'll get gooey. And I don't know if on the camera or if you can see it from where you're sitting, but so I have marked that little notch in the middle here, and I have already marked the little halfway notch there. So I can do that and put that there. Boom, boom, boom. And like I said, this holds really nicely because I don't have to worry at all about getting that in position. But I'm lining up these edges and getting the point right where it needs to be. Okay, so then this one, same thing. Lining up the edge, getting the point. Oops. Oh man, this is taking longer than I thought. Okay. So this is the Suzanne method. I tack on a big circle like this, I tack those 3 spots with the glue. And then I come to my machine, and those first stitches that I put in, I want that edge lined up, just like 2 stitches. So it looks like my top fabric is going to go off my sewing, but I'm only going to take 1, 2. You have to be in the fabric before you count. And then I am going to do that pressure trick. So now I'm going to kind of have my fingers down, not right on the edge, but a little bit off. And actually, I'll use my left hand. I have enough fabric to hold on to with this bigger piece. And I really like this technique. Oop, foot down. The nice thing is my Janome beeps at me and says, "Your foot isn't down." And my other one, I'd start sewing and then it'd be a mess. Okay, so just little by little, always do your pulling and pressure from within the piece of fabric. So you're lining up. These bigger pieces are a whole lot easier to use, I have to say. Okay, now I'm holding here and I'm kind of pulling like that. And I'm over exaggerating it, but so that you can see that that's the angle. So I'm kind of pulling up and over.
Because that's helping you work that fabric in.
Yes, yes, thank you. If I don't clarify it, please try to get clarification. Okay. That one wasn't quite what I wanted. I'm pulling pretty good on this now. But I'm pulling from way in off of, now see how that went? That may not be as happy. Whoop. Cut. Ta-da. Well, it's not bad. It's not bad. But it does have a little bit of a gap there. That's not bad. I won't unsew that. Good enough.
How to trim them? Do you trim them?
I don't,
Okay.
but you can. And you should measure at least a few and see if you're getting close to the mark. But I was delighted when I started sewing them together. And I did have a few that angle was a little wonky or I pulled too hard. And so the interior piece was, maybe a 1/16 of an inch hanging out. And I did line it up and trim them. So I do.
Okay.
If visually I can really see that that's not a nice straight line to sew on,
Yeah.
I will go and trim.
Okay.
And all you want to do is make sure that you have right angles going on. And so, I don't know if we have a square.
Towards the center or out?
I press out like this. So I press out. And as we've talked about before, I'm not a big one on going to my machine and pressing until I'm ready to sew them together. So I finger press mostly. And sometimes the fabric determines pressing in, though. Sometimes you have a thicker weave or a stiffer fabric or something, and it just seems to want to go the other way. But this, I just always find, again, I'm the sensory part of me and fabric. Listen to your fabric, feel it. It wants to go that way. And so, yeah, it wants to go that way versus this way.
Yeah.
Because when you press in, you have more wrinkles in that piece, and then you have more showing of the seam bumps and stuff underneath. So yeah, I press out. So then I'm ready to do this big piece. And I don't know, I actually then, when I was making this handout for you, I found this design. I've never seen this one. I love it. And I thought, oh my gosh, I might need to review how I want to do this. So my plan had been to do 9 of these big pinwheely Drunkards paths, and then to do smaller ones outside of that. But now, I realized how much fabric it takes, and I was like, I don't have any more of this fabric, and I looked online, I couldn't find it anywhere. So unless I can do a more thorough search and find some, I'm stuck. So I don't know. This is not unusual in my tendencies in quilting, is to start with a great idea and then go, oh, I don't have enough fabric. Okay, well, plan B. So, and I honestly like that. I like how they turn out. I like the surprise of it. I think there's only been like 3 quilts I've ever made that I either bought in a kit or I actually went and bought the amount of fabric set in a pattern and started from the absolute get-go knowing what was going to happen. Okay, that's me. I understand that that's not pleasant for a lot of people, like my husband, for example. He's not that kind. So I demonstrated that and took the time to do that. I hope you get the idea about this because we won't have time to do it. I want to just go over the handout a little bit quickly. Some of these, I was realizing that in this series of talks, I bring in quilts for different reasons. So you may find yourselves going, oh, today's topic is stars. I bet she'll bring that one in she brought for triangles. And, because that had stars too. So most of these quilts, if not all of them, I think you may have seen already in some other presentation, but I will go through those. And then the Dresden plate, that was last month's, last month's talk. And that creates circles. It creates a flow that is absolutely fabulous. And this last picture here, go to Pinterest and look in my folders for, it should be in Dresden plate, I hope. It might be in curves. But look that up and really enlarge it and study it, look at it. It is the coolest flow of Dresden plate. And then, if I haven't already shown this, I'll tell you won't know the story, but I'll tell you the story. This quilt, my dear friend here in Missoula, inherited a bunch of quilt tops from a relative, great aunt or somebody, and this one wasn't sewn together as a quilt, it was just a top. And she said, I don't remember ever seeing it, I don't know anything about it, I'm not sure who it was made for, blah, blah, blah. But I'm wondering if you know anything about it, like how old is it, and so on. So I took the top and I shared it with a number of people who knew more than I, and they gave me time period, Depression era, what Aunt Gracie's reproduction fabrics are supposed to look like. And this is the real deal. And what you'll notice in this is that every block, did I just outline a block right? Wait a minute, let me see. Here to here has 2 fans. One fan is smaller than the other. And so when they go together, they get a real wiggly, snaky line. Yeah. And so I looked it up, and the pattern was in a Good Housekeeping magazine. And in 1929, 35, something like that. I forget exactly when. So it was very fun to do the research on it. And when I brought it back to her and showed her and told her what I learned, she said, guess what? I had a dream last night about that quilt. It's so funny that you'd call me today and tell me all about it. And she says, and I dreamt that I had like angels or somebody in the background saying, you better give her that quilt or something bad's going to happen. And I said, okay, I'll take it. So I did. And she was delighted to share it with me. And we actually worked on a number of other pieces from her aunt that were memorable. And this quilt is a top my mother-in-law found in somebody's leftover stuff. It was partially finished, and it has circles, but it's not circular. There are no curves. It is all diamonds, and diamonds create that. Think of a Lone Star quilt and how it creates that circle in the middle. When diamonds come together, they have that circular effect. So it's fun. And it had blocks partially made. It had fabric not cut. It had fabric cut. And it had blocks even sewn together. And I put them all in one and quilted it. So there's that. Here's another curve, and this is called pickle dish. And pickle dish, I know I brought this before. This is actually an applique. So this 2 pointy shape probably has a geometric name to it. It is, I don't know what that is though. It's in quilting called a melon shape. I don't know. Anyway, so it goes point, curve, point, curve. And the melon shape is foundation pieced. And then the edges are pressed under and they're top stitched on top of a whole cloth fabric. Yeah, isn't that a cool thing? So I took a class in that a long time back. But this can be made like a wedding ring quilt where the curves are sewn in just like I did here. So you have a piece that is this curvy diamond shape, and you have the melon, and the melon is the convex curve, and the diamond is the concave curve, and you sew them together. And they're more gentle than a quarter circle, so it's really not a terribly hard piecing job. From what you saw me do, especially with this little glue stick, this Soline glue stick. It's pretty slick. So that's a fun one. Another way that curves are brought to the design is with applique. And so I wanted to show you real quickly how to do the vine in a really nice, easy strategy. And then the leaves are made by cutting the leaf shape, cutting a piece of fusible, it's not called fusible interfacing, is it? Okay, interfacing, and a double-sided, and you sew that on so that you can turn it inside out by snipping the back of the fusible, so the seam is continuous, and then you can press it in place and top stitch with a machine applique, or you can even do by hand if that's your thing. I'm a little too rushed to do hand applique, but I know how. And the thing I like about these curves is that they combine with the geometric of the 9 patch, and you get a lot of motion with really very little effort. This is a super easy quilt to make. This is not a super easy quilt to make. This is a Judy Niemeyer pattern, and I took a class not too long ago. And it's foundation piecing, and then after you foundation piece this, then you foundation piece this, then you take the paper off, and then you sew this curve. Then you cut these, and you sew this curve into it too. So you're doing what I just did twice on each block. And the class I took was from Vita Anderson, and she did a fabulous job. She's a wonderful teacher. This applique, straight applique, super easy pattern. And I don't know if you guys still have this pattern, but I think I got it here. And so this is just a 4 patch. These are a bar and one of these squares, and then a large square. And on the squares where the circles are, you applique those first. And you do the applique the same way I described the leaves. So you sew an interfacing circle and then turn it inside out with a slit in the back and press them on. Top stitch with a straight stitch, a zigzag, a blanket stitch, a specialty stitch, whatever you want. And I've made probably 6 of these, I guess, and they're so fast, they're so easy, just nice. This quilt is a lovely example of how curves take different form, because this is foundation pieced. So each little sliver is sewn on the foundation, and then together it looks like a curve. Things spin without being circular. This is the foundation piece log cabin, and it ends up with a curve that you see. And then this is actually curve piecing like I did in demonstration. And this is a snail's trail which is geometry that creates the curve. So you have a 4 patch in the center, or a single patch, I guess is this one. So you have a single patch in the center, a square, and then you have a square and a square, and a square and a square, and a square and a square added. And so these little triangles are added to this. Then you go to the next size and you add the triangles to it. Snail's Trail is such a fun block. And as I shared in your handout, the Storm at Sea with the Snail's Trail is such a pretty block, and it creates so much movement, thus the name, I guess, aptly named. I wanted to share a couple of things too. We have my daughter and I went to Costa Rica, and this is a piece from South and Central America that the applique creates a lot of curves, and so appliques are amazing. And mola, is that what that's called, I think? Mola applique. I might be wrong. Sorry if I'm saying that, if I'm making the wrong name to that. This is foundation piecing. And I brought the snowflake in. It's up high on the wall. I didn't bring it. A 9 patch and a snowball. I gave you a picture of it on the handout. This is such an easy block. So you have a large block and you do a stitch and flip corner. So you sew so that you just have a triangle on the outside corner, and then you put it up against a 9 patch. And so it has these round circles. Here's another one. Grizzly bears in grizzly country. And here's another one. They're just super easy to make. This is a piece quilt. I mentioned piece quilting before, that as a Missoula piece quilter, Fernanda and Robert, that used to own Imagination Brewery here in town, they were recipients of the Peace Award one year, and that's the quilt we made for them. And that has a lot of curve and motion. A lot of it is created with applique. I think the center one is actually foundation piecing, though, if I remember right. This is like the Judy Niemeyer. It's a New York Beauty type of design. Same with this. This is a stack and whack wedge, so all the wedges are the same piece, the repeat of the fabric, so they make this lovely curve and curve and curve all the way in. These are geometrics that make curves. So you got a hump on the top of the grizzly bear and round hips and legs moving along, and that's all made by the geometry of triangles and squares together. I love this yin yang. It's just, I want to make that one sometime, but it's a tight circle in the center, and I'm not sure about that. Here's the Lone Star effect of the diamonds. And a little bit here, wonderful. This is a quilt that we made and gave to the women's ministry or something like that in Afghanistan in the time that we were engaged in war with them. And the peace quilters felt very strongly that we wanted to convey that there were peacemakers here. And so we made this quilt, and it was called From Rubble to Roses. Roses are very important in that culture, and they make rose water, rose stuff, flavored stuff, and perfumes and all kinds of things. And so the roses grow out of the rubble that is conveyed. And this arch is just triangles and squares. That's how that curve comes in. There's applique curves, there's all kinds of curves. And then this, I'll send this piece around, these two pictures around. These two have, oops, hold it right. the mountains in the background. This is a close-up. And I'm going to show you real quickly if we have time, I'll do it fast. How some fun improvisational curves can be sewn. So I'll send those two around. Here's a snail's trail. This is another peacemaker quilt. And here's pieced. This is another peacemaker quilt. We do a lot of curves. Here's a color wash. That's created just by the squares. I don't think it isn't even triangles. It's just squares that are offset with color. There's those. That's that quilt. The piece quilters all have a quilt like mine, the row by row. We all worked on each other's quilts, and these have a number of circles. And then this was my son's graduation and a quilt, and it's appliqued with circles that are kind of like bubbles or something in gray water. And then the gray background. He chose all the fabrics. He said, Mom, I don't want some traditional squared off quilt block. I said, okay, curves and circles, you got it. We're ready. So that's what we have. So anyway, I won't go through all those. So let me show you real quickly. I'm trying to get these out of the way. Oh, in Fawns and Porter magazines, they often have this pink bar on sometimes at the middle of their magazine, sometimes at the end, and they have some of the best pictorial instructions for all kinds of techniques. And they have one for curves, and this is wonderfully photographed so you can really see what's going on. They do use pins. I would suggest trying this glue and see what you think. I think it just is amazing. And they show up close and personal how that works. Okay, I'll move that out of the way. Okay, hang on just a sec. I'm going to show you a quick improvisational technique. And one of my friends who may be watching in Detroit, I told her, oh, watch, I'll show how to do this. And I'm just barely getting it in on the skin of my teeth here. So you have your two fabrics that are going to go together, go next to each other. And you lay this down, and it doesn't matter which one's on top. And you lay this down, and you just visually kind of think, okay, I have about an inch-ish overlap here. I'm going to start down somewhere, and I'm going to curve. I'm going to hold this because I don't have a template or anything to hang on to. And these gentle curves is the key. You don't want to do a big arc, tight arc, just a gentle curve that doesn't go beyond this inch-ish amount. And without marking, without anything. You can go to your sewing machine. You can glue if you want. I don't. But that is a way to feel a little better about things. And going, but what? And see, this is the, you're going to go back and forth on concave and convex, so it doesn't really matter which one's on top. And you just kind of push it in place. And there I'm losing, so I want to scrape that into place. Push that. If you have wrinkles way back here, that's okay. Your needle isn't going over that. So, come here. That would matter. Having a pleat. But because these are, I think I just ran out of bobbin thread. I heard it go different. No, I didn't. Okay. And you know, it's not really precise. It's good enough. And then when you get to the end, which we're almost there, and I'm kind of pulling the way I was telling you before as I'm going, especially on the, oops, I might have just sewn this piece. Oh, shoot, classic mistake. I wasn't paying attention to my underside and what the heck oh no, I didn't. But, okay, that's enough to have it show. So here it is. And so you can design your own thing. So here we have this. And for this, I might go back and clip because I'll have some going in the other direction. I might have wanted to press this toward the dark fabric. That probably would have been better. But now we have just that nice gentle curve. Another way to do it is just as I set them on top of each other and cut, is then to just move one a little bit over and those curves will match up, and then top stitch and you have a raw edge. And that's really cool looking too. So that's a raw edge option. Some of you may be familiar with the quilts that were quite popular in the 90s, early 2000s maybe, that were called bullseye quilts. And what they were is you took a square, you took a circle that filled the square, a next smaller circle about a inchish, about 2 inches smaller across, and then another one, so you had at least 3 circles in layers. Then you cut the block in quadrants, and you made a whole bunch of others. And then you pieced the quadrants from other colorways together. They didn't match up, they were top stitch, they were raw edge, super fast and really fun, really attractive, very primitive, but very, very fun quilts.
Somebody online was asking, you mentioned Pat Forrest at some
Yes.
point, and they can't find it online.
Okay, let me check my phone and I will see. Maybe I did it wrong. Maybe it's 2 R's. Gmail. Oh, and it's under Fractal Quilts, Fractal, Fractal Quilts, and it's a blog. Oh, I did it wrong. Forster, Forster, Pat Forster. I knew I got it mixed up with Forrest all the time, but I thought it was just the double R thing. Fractal Quilts, Fractal Quilts. And I'll show you one of, they're so cool. They are so cool. Maybe I will. But she does the Dresden plate curve and then nests. Where'd my little one go? Oh, I might not be able to find it. Wherever the little one went. No, I don't see it. Somewhere. Nope. It's somewhere around here. And then nests a smaller one and a smaller one, and they line up. Oh no, that's pinned. There's one I sewed, and I was looking for that. Thank you, though. Thanks for helping me try to organize. Is that it? Nope, that's not it. Okay, anyway. Here we are on my pen. My stuff. No, come on. quilted projects. And curves. And when you see her amazing mathematical talent, it's just fantastic. Oh, it's taking a while to load, sorry. Anyway, so that's curves. Oh, let me just give you a verbal description. I didn't get to show you how to do the vine a real easy way. What you do is you cut a skinny strip of your vine color, you fold it in half and sew a super thin seam allowance with the right side of the fabric out. So it looks like you've now made a raw edge tube. Okay, yeah, so you, on the lengthwise, you fold it in half and you sew along your raw edge, skinny, skinny, skinny as you can make it be. And then you mark on your base fabric the curve line you want, and you set your long tube down so the raw edge is to the right and your stitching line is just a little to the left of your drawn line. And you sew on the left side of your stitching line, and then you fold it over and you cut it on the bias. And when you cut it on the bias, it'll make those gentle curves that you want. And you'll have sewn one side, and then when you fold it over and press it, you can either top stitch the other side or hand stitch the other side, or you know, whatever you want. And that's how I did the leaf vine. It's that. So yeah, sorry I didn't get to demonstrate that. Arlo, do you remember what our topic is next month by any chance?
I can check really quickly.
Thank you.
Next month, we're doing gentle curves and folded curves.
Oh, well,
There we go.
I did, this is curves. It's not this, that's not now?
It looks like we split it up into two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If
Wow,
that doesn't work,
I-
we can change it.
We might do the next one because I did cram an awful lot into today,
So
but.
then, improv piecing.
Oh, great. I'll bring more gentle curve into improv piecing.
Okay.
Yes, that sounds fun. Okay, we'll kind of combine those. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to see you
Thank
guys.
you.